powerbacks, smash mouth runners, human sledgehammers. The NFL has always loved its speedsters and highlight reel playmakers, but there's a special place in football history for the men who didn't run away from contact, they ran through it. In part 2 of the series, we continue the countdown of the hardest hitters, the punishing bruisers, and the backs who turned linebackers into speed bumps. This is the hardest hitting running backs in NFL history, part 2, 11, Larry Csonka. Larry Csonka wasn't just a running back, he was a walking avalanche. At 6 feet 3 inches, 235 pounds, Csonka punished defenders every time he touched the ball. Miami built their entire offense around his violent running style, letting him break tackles like they were branches. Defenders said hitting him felt like running into a refrigerator strapped to a truck. He powered the Dolphins to perfection in 1972 and became the backbone of the most physical running game the NFL had ever seen. 12. John Riggins. John Riggins came into every game looking like he had been carved straight out of stone. The Diesel wasn't flashy, but when Washington needed yards, they handed him the ball and watched bodies fly. Riggins ran like he was mad at the ground. His Super Bowl 17 touchdown run, breaking free on 4th and 1, remains one of the most iconic moments in NFL history, a perfect example of a man who refused to be tackled. 13. Christian Okoye, nicknamed the Nigerian Nightmare. Christian Okoye was one of the most terrifying forces of the late 80s and early 90s. At 260 pounds, with legitimate track speed, Okoye ran with a combination of power and momentum that looked impossible for a man that size. Defenders bounced off him like rubber balls. Even legendary Raiders safety Ronnie Lott admitted that tackling Okoye felt like getting hit by a truck. 14. Franco Harris. Franco Harris wasn't just a Steeler, he was a symbol of Pittsburgh's toughness. A powerful 230-pound back with a smooth running style, Harris punished defenders quietly but relentlessly. His ability to finish runs with force made him perfect for the Steel Curtain era. Everyone remembers the Immaculate Reception, but his true legacy rests in thousands of bruising carries that wore down defenses for an entire decade. 15. Craig Ironhead Hayward. The nickname Ironhead wasn't just for show. Craig Hayward ran like he was trying to break helmets. His 260-pound frame exploded into defenders with bone-rattling force. He didn't dance, he didn't hesitate, he bulldozed. Hayward became a legend not just for his strength, but for the way defenders avoided tackling him head-on. 16. Tom Rathman. Tom Rathman wasn't your typical fullback, he was a destroyer. As the lead blocker for the 49ers dynasty, Rathman cleared lanes like a wrecking ball. But what people forget is how devastating he was when he got the ball himself. He ran with anger, low pad level, and relentless drive. Every touch meant someone was about to get hit hard. 17. Marion Motley. Marion Motley belongs in a different category because he wasn't just big for his era, he would be big in any era. Standing 6 feet 1 inch, 238 pounds in the 1940s, Motley was a force of nature. He ran with brutal power and carried defenders like luggage. Motley changed the way people viewed running backs, proving the future belonged to big, bruising runners. 18. LaDainian Tomlinson. LaDainian Tomlinson is known for speed, finesse, and touchdowns. But when he wanted to, LT could lower his shoulder and deliver punishing hits. He wasn't the biggest back, but he played with a fearless toughness. His combination of power and agility made him impossible to predict and even harder to tackle. 19. Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is the modern-day king of physical running. At 6 feet 3 inches, 247 pounds, he looks like a defensive end playing running back. His stiff arm has become a highlight machine, tossing grown men like rag dolls. Henry's long runs are legendary, not for speed alone, but because he knocks defenders out of the way like bowling pins for 60 yards straight. He is the closest thing the modern NFL has to a runaway freight train. 20. Frank Gore. Frank Gore didn't run like a sprinter, he ran like a tank. Known for his low, powerful center of gravity, Gore delivered contact with efficiency. He didn't seek the sideline, he sought defenders. Over 16 seasons, he built a legacy on durability, toughness, and punishing finishes to every run. 21. Brandon Jacobs. Brandon Jacobs was a nightmare matchup. At 6 feet 4 inches, 265 pounds, he ran like a defensive end with the ball. Safeties made business decisions when he got to the second level. Jacobs specialized in goal line destruction. Nobody wanted to stand between him and the end zone. 22. Natrone means didn't avoid contact, he embraced it. At 245 pounds, the Chargers star punished anyone who tried to wrap him up. His downhill style made defenders collapse backward on impact. When Means got rolling, stopping him felt impossible. 23. Larry Johnson. For a 2-year stretch, Larry Johnson was the most unstoppable power back in football. He ran with violent intent, lowering his shoulder into defenders with brutal force. From 2005 to 2006, he logged one of the heaviest workloads in NFL history, delivering punishment on every carry. Johnson was a battering ram with elite acceleration. 24. Billy Sims had the rare combination of speed, balance, and devastating power. He jumped over defenders, spun out of tackles, and delivered hits with shocking explosiveness. Sims's violent running style unfortunately shortened his career, but in his prime, he was must-watch football, dangerous from any angle. 25. Jamal Lewis. Jamal Lewis was a monster in shoulder pads. At 240 pounds with blistering speed, he intimidated entire defenses before the game even started. His 2,066-yard season included a 295-yard game where he tore through defenders like paper. Lewis didn't just run hard, he ran angry. 26. Chuck Muncie. Chuck Muncie combined size, grace, and raw power. His upright running style deceived defenders until he lowered the boom. At 6 feet 3 inches, 225 pounds, Muncie delivered crushing hits and finished runs with punishing authority. His mixture of finesse and force made him a unique threat. 27. Daryl Moose Johnston. Moose echoes through stadiums whenever Daryl Johnston's highlights are shown. One of the greatest fullbacks ever, Johnston was the enforcer for Emmitt Smith. But when he got the ball himself, he ran over defenders with pure force. He was a true throwback, unselfish, physical, and fearless. 28. Marion Barber. Marion Barber ran like every play was the last carry of his life. His violent style became legendary with the Cowboys. Barber didn't go out of bounds, didn't slide, and didn't avoid contact. He delivered punishment with every step, turning short gains into dramatic physical battles. His 7-tackle breaking run against the Patriots remains one of the toughest runs in NFL history. 29. DeMarco Murray. DeMarco Murray was a complete back, but his physicality made him special. He ran with patience, but when it was time to finish the play, he delivered devastating hits. Murray broke tackles with power and balance, leaving defenders stunned as he powered through arm tackles over and over. 30. Steven Jackson. Steven Jackson was a human battering ram for the St. Louis Rams. At 240 pounds with surprising agility, he delivered some of the hardest hits of the 2000s. Jackson fought for every yard, dragging defenders, lowering his shoulder, and refusing to go down until 4 or 5 men pulled him backward. He was toughness personified. 31. Rodney Hampton. Rodney Hampton was the Giants' workhorse, reliable, powerful, and fearless. His running style centered on explosive lower body strength, punishing defenders who tried to tackle him high. Hampton wasn't flashy, but he was brutal in the trenches. 32. Charles Way. Another Giants bruiser, Charles Way was a fullback known for devastating collisions. When he carried the ball, he plowed through defenders like a snowplow. Way made his name delivering hits, not avoiding them, earning respect across the league as a true enforcer. 33. Morris Jones-Drew. Morris Jones-Drew may have been short, but he was built like a tank. At 5 feet 7 inches, 210 pounds, MJD had tree trunk legs and absurd lower body power. Linebackers went airborne when he delivered contact. One of his signature moments was flattening Sean Merriman, a hit that shook the stadium. MJD ran with the heart of a giant. 34. Peyton Hillis. For one magical year, Peyton Hillis became the most unstoppable force in football. His 2010 season with Cleveland was a highlight reel of bruising violence, stiff arms, truck sticks, and defenders crushed under his 250-pound frame. Hillis ran angry, fought through every tackle, and became the rare fullback to carry an entire offense. His power earned him the Madden cover and a place among the hardest hitters. 35. Cameron Scatabo. Cameron Scatabo, the rising star, represents the next generation of power backs. He runs like a throwback low center of gravity, relentless drive, and a willingness to crash into defenders at full speed. At Arizona State, Scatabo has already built a reputation for violent runs, dragging defenders and delivering hits with old school intensity. If his career trajectory continues, he may become the next great power runner in the NFL. From old school bruisers to modern day juggernauts, these are the backs who made made the ground shake. They didn't rely on finesse, they relied on force. Every carry was a collision, every run a battle.